Welcome back, everyone. Next, we have Sokoman Minerals Corp. It trades on the TSXV under the symbol SIC and on the OTCQB under the symbol SICNF. It's a discovery-oriented company with projects in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada. Please welcome President, CEO, and Director Tim Froude. Nice to see you, Tim.
Thanks again, Anna, for having me back. I hope you've been well, and yeah, let's get going. We've got a lot of time but a lot of topics, to cover. And yeah, so I'm going to run through my presentation very quickly, allowing obviously more time at the end for questions, which I hope there are a number. And yeah, I'm here to answer whatever I can.
Perfect. The floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you. So can you see my screen? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, welcome back, everybody. It's been a year or more. I forget actually when we were here last. It may have been last year, but anyway, a lot has changed. We have grown. We've made some additional discoveries, which is what our primary, agenda is, a discovery generating company. And yeah, with me here on the first slide is a very important person in the province. He's actually our Mines and Energy Minister. And two of our projects actually sit in his electoral district, and he's a big fan. And he he reaches out every now and again just to see if there's anything he can do for us, which is obviously not the norm, I guess, in a lot of jurisdictions in the world. But anyway, I felt it was important to say that because we are in a very, very mining positive jurisdiction, and Andrew is a friend actually, so that's a good thing to start with. I may say some forward-looking statements. And of course, I wouldn't be here, and my job would be a lot harder without the help of my dedicated board and management team. I won't go through them all, but I did promise them I'd put their smiling faces up on the screen for everyone to see. And yeah, I'll be talking with them a lot more in the next few hours after this show. So. Again, Newfoundland, yeah, it's our focus. It's our backyard. It's where pretty well the whole team, our exploration team, that is, grew up and educated and raised. And the Flur de Lee project, which is one of the key projects that I'll be talking about today, is sitting here on the northern coast of Newfoundland, where icebergs are now basically coming down and giving everyone a good show. Our Moosehead project, which is our flagship project, sits here on the Trans-Canada Highway, just to the west of our neighbors, Newfound Gold with our Queensway project. And the other one I'll be talking about today is our lithium spin-out, which is still in progress, and I'll update that as well. But again, Newfoundland focused, we spend our money and our dollars very expeditiously, and obviously in this time with financings being so so difficult, a strong management of your money is obviously very important. So first of all, our Moosehead project is our flagship project. It's been one we've been active on for several years, obviously, our most important project, and will remain so. It sits in the same basic geological package of rocks as our neighbors' Newfound Gold property, which is hosted the Queensway mineralization, and basically we're chasing the same sort of systems, same sort of quartz veins and deposit types, and ultimately, I guess, the same end goal, basically, to advance these projects to a point where we either sell them, take them over. I may say this, that we don't intend to be a miner ourselves, but funnier things have happened, and yeah, we'll see what time brings us. It's 100% owned. We earned in our project ownership early on in the transition from the project owners were Altius Minerals Corp, a locally based royalty company for the most part now, but still developing projects for companies like ourselves. And after 4 years, I guess, of aggressive exploration, we've drilled over 100,000 meters. The project has excellent attributes. It sits on the Trans-Canada Highway. We're about an hour's drive away from the assay lab and drilling companies, and we can pretty much explore year-round with minor breaks here and there. We're situated on the same trend as the 5 million ounce Valentine Lake project, which is nearing construction completion, I guess, and should have production in the next 6 or 8 months. And yeah, it's chasing targets very similar to the Fosterville gold deposit in Australia, a high-grade zone operated by Currently now it's, I guess, Agnico Eagle, but formerly Kirkland Lake Gold. And yeah, high grades are the order of the day here. And yeah, just recently, last week, in fact, we put out a news release reminding people how significant the mineralization here can be. And again, a further reminder with our slide here of the top 25 holes. It doesn't even include the last 2 holes from the footwall splay zone. But I guess the thing to take away from this is it's not just one area of the property that's hosting, high-grade gold. We've identified, I think, 6 to 7 discrete zones now on the property, and every one of them, without exception, has delivered high grade. The one we're currently working on, the 552 zone, is a new zone that we discovered just late last year, and with very few holes in it to date. We're still searching for the sweet spots, but we are obviously encountering gold mineralization. Our last press release actually included some really cool intercepts there, 6 to 8 grams over a couple of meters. So we're getting there, and we do feel that with time and with additional drilling, the 552 zone, which will be a focus for us moving forward. And in fact, I'll show it here on this slide. Most of our known mineralization actually sits here just to the west, if you will, of the 552 zone, the eastern trend, the footwall splay, the 75 zone, South Pond, all kind of sits 3 to 4 to 500 meters to the west of the 552. And obviously, it's a new area. We haven't had a lot of holes out here. In fact, to the north and to the south and further to the east of 552, we have no drilling. So this is an area that will be a focus for us, as well as moving forward with a new approach that we've taken this year. We're looking at a bulk sample at some point. Can't pin a date exactly when we're doing it, but we did announce in the last press release on Moosehead just a week or so ago that we have signed a memorandum of understanding with a company called Nova Mira Inc. And they're developing some proprietary technology that's very exciting. It's essentially an EM system at the start, which defines basically it maps out your ore zones basically in more detail than, say, standard drilling would be, and actually saves a lot of drilling costs by utilizing their proprietary calibration tool. In fact, we've just mobilized the unit back there to the property just in the past couple of days to continue with our process of basically fleshing out an area that in the footwall splay zone that will be ultimately an area where we will take a bulk sample, and I'll get into that in a little more detail. And if there are any questions, and I hope there are about this, I will certainly address them now, but I've got a lot more to talk about. So yeah, so the focus for Moosehead for 2024, will be, again, more work on the 552 zone, and as well what we need to do to help Nova Mira move along, and obviously ultimately take at least a bulk sample at the footwall splay. That'll be probably second, third, fourth quarter this year, and see what that gets us, and then see what the next steps will be based on that. Flur de Lee, which is actually where I'm calling, where this conference, where you found me here today, is actually, I'm on the Flur de Lee property. I'm in the town of Baie Verte, which is a historical mining town and an active mining town on the north coast of Newfoundland. And we're here because the geology of the Flur de Lee area is very similar to the geology of the UK, specifically parts of the Northern Ireland and Scotland, where in Northern Ireland, a very large gold deposit called Keynote sits. It's actually over 6 million ounces and still open. And so about a year ago to this date, actually, myself and a couple of our team members went over to Ireland to examine the area, and with the help of British government geologists and some local prospectors, basically had a great tour of the region in and around the Keynote deposit to see what the rocks look like over there. Are they indeed similar to ours? And what lessons can we learn from what they've been doing over there to help us with our project here in Newfoundland? And yeah, a lot of the boxes got checked off. We were very pleasantly, not surprised, but comforted in the fact that, yeah, there's a lot of direct comparisons between Keynote and Flur de Lee. So just a quick look at some of the mineralization here. These stylolytic type quartz veins carry small amounts of sulfide, and with the sulfide you get the gold. The project is a large project. At some point, we may have to trim it down or maybe even spin it out as a separate entity. But we've identified a gold anomaly trend in till over 30 kilometers. And the highlights have been the discovery recently of the Golden Bull prospect, which I'll get into just a second here. But again, it's early stages here. We will be doing our first set of drilling here on this property, probably in mid-July. A small program, a couple thousand meters to start, and hopefully meet with some success. Historically, there's only been one hole drill for gold on this entire property, which is almost 330 square kilometers. So it's virtually unexplored, and obviously has shown potential based on our visit to Ireland and obviously the things that we've been finding, including a rock like this. This is probably a 4-ton boulder that we found as one of many. In fact, over 30 boulders found so far, with assays to just under 10 grams, and the area is undergoing active logging. And when I say active logging, this is what the project area looked like in March of this year. Fast forward 2 months, and you see the same image with basically huge areas of cutover that we're currently prospecting, happily away on, and actually finding more boulders. So there's more news to come here on this, and obviously something that we hope that will help us focus our efforts here at Flur de Lee. And when we go to start drilling here, obviously we'll have the best targets picked possible. So yeah, lots of exciting things going on at Flur de Lee. Again, this is just another view of basically the geological components of Flur de Lee. The town actually of Bay Verte sits just off the edge of the map here. It's really close. So infrastructure is great. Again, access is great. And with lots of targets to test here, we're optimistic that things will work our way here, and we'll actually make a new discovery or two on the Flur de Lee property. Quickly on the Killick Lithium project, because first and foremost, Sokoman is a gold-focused company. But in the course of looking for gold, on one of our older projects, the Golden Hope, we actually found a series of spodumene or lithium-bearing dikes, which a year and a half later turned into a significant agreement with a U.S.-based company, Piedmont Lithium, and a $24 million deal to explore and push forward the project now known as Killick. And so to that end, Benton, our JV partner, our initial JV partner, and of course our now third-party partner and funding partner, Piedmont, agreed that this should be spun out into a separate company. That process is underway, and it's been frustratingly a longer process than we think need be. Essentially, the exchange has come back for a number of things that we feel are quite unnecessary in terms of explaining, how this deal will work. I think it's probably just not the standard spin-out deal. It's got 3 partners and 2 countries involved in things, and I think they're just trying to make sure that obviously they're looking out to shareholders' interests and stuff. But yeah, we hope within 30, maybe even 60 days to have some significant news on this. We're ready to go, pretty much. It's just the exchange giving it the final blessing, and they do things in their own time. And yeah, but we hope to have some pretty serious announcements on the Killick project in the next little while. We are still working on the ground. In fact, we just opened the camp last week. We're flying an airborne survey over portions of the property that wasn't initially flown with geophysics. And prospecting still, because further discoveries can indeed be made on this property, which has delivered, significant drill results, including, 16 meters of greater than 1%. So we're in the ballpark. We just need to make it as big as we possibly can, as quickly as we can. And that's basically it. So I think I'll just stop here. I do hope there are questions, and I'm certainly willing and more than happy to answer any questions you may have. Anna?
Yes, thank you so much. All right, so 13 of the top 25 holes listed on slide 7, if you want to refer back to that, were drilled in the eastern trend, including the 4 best and 5 of the top 10. Yet no further drilling has been completed there since late of 2022. So is this target completed? Can you explain what's going on?
That's an excellent question, and you're right. I mean, some of our best results have indeed come from the eastern trend, and no, it hasn't been closed off. It's just one of those things where something else pops up when you've got a couple of drills sometimes working and you make a discovery somewhere else on the property. You kind of want to flesh that out a little bit. So the eastern trend kind of got not left behind, but obviously with so many zones of mineralization on the property and new ones being found, we felt probably let's just push aside the eastern trend for a little bit now. It's still open. There will be more drilling here at the eastern trend, but no, and we recognize that fact. If we had 10 drills going, yes, we would probably have a couple focused on every zone at the same time. But obviously, with the Treasury the way it is, with $2 to $3 million in the bank, which will fund basically the summer program on Moosehead and Flur de Lee, one drill probably is, or 2 drills at the most, is probably what we can muster for now. And but yeah, no, we will be back at the eastern trend. We haven't forgotten it, and you will be hearing more from it in the future. Thank you for your question.
Talk a little bit about the Golden Bull. Is the Golden Bull, which is within the 30-kilometer long Golden Till sampling corridor, identified? And does the till sampling successfully target the Golden Bull?
Actually, yes. The Golden Bull does sit within that 30-kilometer long overall till geochemical anomaly, more towards the northern end, where we've been kind of poking around all of the main sort of hotspots within that 30 kilometers. There's about 6 or 7 priority 1 to 7 target areas that lie within that overall 30-kilometer package. Clearly, the Golden Bull is number 1 based on just what you see. I hope you can see the screen. That float like this obviously didn't come very far. In fact, we're working with ODM right now, Overburden Drilling Management, who oversaw the initial till program, to help us figure out, possible, ice directions and things like that, because this terrain is largely, as you see in the pictures, there's not a lot of outcrop here. So the logging has helped, and we are finding more boulders. We still haven't found it in outcrop, but just the sheer number of boulders, their size, their angularity, yeah, we're probably within 300 to 400 meters maybe of where these things actually come to surface and are plucked off by the glacier. So, but yeah, I hope I've answered your question. But no, there are other target areas as well. But yeah, Golden Bull does sit within the overall 30-kilometer long package, more towards the northern end.
Wonderful. Also, will there be an update on the Killick Lithium IPO and the fieldwork this year?
Yeah, I think I touched on that briefly in my presentation, but yeah, I mean, we're ready to go. Clearly, the exchange has had some issues with it. We don't think the issues are that serious, really. Maybe it's just a bit complicated for them. I don't want to say anything negative about the exchange, but we really feel that this should have been resolved, several weeks ago. And that's all I think we're talking about now in terms of having this thing finalized. We are making progress, but it's like every time we answer their questions, they come back with another one. So anyway, we think it's pretty much a done deal. We really do hope to have this thing up and running, sometime this summer. I hate to put numbers out, but 30 days is probably realistic. 60 days, maybe more like it, but it is being worked on. We've done our very best. We've pushed and we've answered. And yeah, it's really up to the exchange. We're ready to go. So yeah, it could be very, very soon.
And how aggressively do you plan on targeting the known zones of high-grade mineralization, such as the Eastern Trend, this summer? Might there be immediate follow-up deep drilling to determine where the high grade is coming from?
Absolutely, and I'm going to focus on the last part of that question, the deep drilling. We've re-engaged our structural consultant, Dr. David Collar, who was over earlier this year to look at a bunch of holes that we've drilled in a number of areas, including the 552 zone, which very much intrigues him as well, because the 552 actually sits at a different orientation than most of the other zones that we've encountered on the property. So I guess to sum it all up, yeah, we think that there's obviously a common link to all of these zones. I mean, the mineralization looks very similar in all of them. There are subtle differences, which could mean that we're just looking at a little higher or a little lower level in the overall system. But we've tasked Dr. Collar basically with helping us put together a structural model that would link all of these things at depth. And we're talking like, below 500 meters vertically down to potentially 800 to 1,000 meters vertically. When we get to drill those holes will depend a lot on how quickly Dr. Collar can, put things together. And every hole we drill will obviously be added to the database as well. But at some point this year, and within the current budget of about $2 million that I have set aside for this year, we will be drilling, some deeper holes. The number of holes and the actual depth, again, that will come from Dr. Collar's recommendations. So, so stay tuned. We will be drilling some very deep holes, and it's quite exciting. Could be, obviously a potential game changer for us, because most of our drilling to date, for many reasons, has focused on levels above 400 meters. Again, our new discovery 552 was less than 40 meters down the hole. So there's still low-hanging fruit to find here, and that's important. But at the same time, we know we have to bring this thing to depth, and with Dr. Collar's help, hopefully, 2 or 3 or 4, I don't know how many for sure, but deeper holes will be, on their way at some point later this year.
Thank you for that. A few questions about Novamera's technology. One, in more detail, how will using Novamera's technology benefit future drilling at Moosehead?
Well, I think it's linked. I think there's 2 things to look at here. One is how we can help them and they can help us. We're looking at Novamera right now in terms of, as an environmentally friendly way to achieve, the next step at Moosehead, which is the collection of a bulk sample. And, their technology, and I do urge people to go visit their site. It's a fascinating website, novamerainc.com, I think it is, www. And there you can get a really good idea as to exactly what happens. And so, we're obviously looking to take a bulk sample from someplace close to surface, which is why the footwall splay was targeted in the first place. And obviously, it's the two pilot holes that we drilled for them were the ones that we reported in the last press release. And I think, 10.25 meters of 84 grams. That's a pretty good place to take a bulk sample if you're looking for gold. So we'll be working with them over the coming weeks. In fact, I did mention that we've mobilized their unit back onto the property again to to basically survey a couple of older holes that we've had in the area, same area, the footwall splay zone. To take a bulk sample without having to disturb a lot of ground, I think would be a responsible and environmentally responsible thing to do, as well as potentially a much cheaper option than standard digging a hole and blasting and taking something out. So. It's cutting edge technology. It's smart mining potentially. We're a long ways from mining yet, but certainly to get a bulk sample, I think is the next prudent step for us. And I think Novamera's technology could certainly facilitate that in an efficient, effective, cost-effective, and environmentally friendly way.
And if you can just go over that one more time, what is the total depth that Novamera technology can dig? How many tons do you want to get? And ultimately, what's the main goal of this bulk sample?
First, let me think. Their technology has been tested. They have gone down to 300 meters. And obviously, we don't need to go that deep for a bulk sample. That's more on the mining sort of side of things. But certainly they're capable of something down to 300 meters quite comfortably. And I forget what the rest of the question was. Can you repeat it, Anna, quickly for me,
Sure.
please?
How many tons do you want to get?
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, there's a couple of ways to answer that. There's the way that we can take a bulk sample and not trigger a full environmental process, which means a sample, I think, measuring 1,000 cubic meters. If you take a sample smaller than 1,000 cubic meters, you can avoid a lot of the hurdles that you have to jump through to basically, if you take a sample larger than that, I think you actually have to apply for a full mining permit, which is kind of, and I do have to clarify this with the department, because we really don't want to permit a mine when we want to do a bulk sample. So, so basically, if we go back to that original number, 1,000 cubic meters, based on the density of quartz with gold in it, how much? But anyway, you're looking at something probably around 2,500 to somewhere less than 3,000 tons. So 2,500 to 3,000 tons would probably be the most logical place for us to start, simply because it would not trigger a lot of environmental whistles for us, as well as keep the cost down. And, I think it would be a very representative sample from a very high grade part. And obviously that's where we would want to focus. So yeah, so somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 tons to start with, and we'll run from there.
And Tim, do you also plan to get a bulk sample from the 463 zone?
Well, that would be one of the deeper zones. So that's down, I think, memory serves me correct, somewhere between 300 and 400 meters down that depth. So that would be one that we would probably save for later. In fact, it may actually be part of a more distant mining plan sort of thing. Clearly, the footwall splay, the 75 zone, the South Pond zone, which delivered some fantastic results as well, would probably be areas where, if mining were to commence here, those are areas that we would probably start. So the 463 zone, would probably require even some tighter infill drilling beforehand. So yeah, but I think for now, the 463 would probably be something that will be looked at as more of a future sort of mine sort of area, as opposed to something that would, we would take a bulk sample from.
And a viewer wants you to clarify, you said that at one point you went for a spin out of the Flur de Lee property. What was that for? Is it after the sale of Moosehead?
I don't know where that rumor came from, actually, because we may have talked about it very quietly internally, but no, we never made it public that we would be looking to spin out. But I do recall now, actually, in my presentation a few minutes ago, if that's what the gentleman or lady is referring to, Flur de Lee has a lot of potential, and it could be something that at the end of the day, because we also have to look at how are we going to advance these projects, moving forward. It will take a lot of money. So unless things change in the market, and our share price is 4 cents. So raising the capital that would be required to move these things forward in a very aggressive way, could be, quite dilutive. Now, I'm not against dilution. In fact, I do make a note of this whenever I can, that just because you've got a couple 100 million shares outstanding doesn't mean you're washed up and you're over the hill. I like to use the example of Calibre Mining, which are very successfully advancing the Valentine Lake gold deposit, which is just down the road from our Moosehead project. They have 785 million shares outstanding, and I don't see shareholders running away from them. In fact, their stock has done quite well, probably up 60 to 80% in the past 6 to 8 months. So 785 million shares, that's their number. It's not ours, but I think people in North America just have to get used to companies, unless they're going to finance them, or keep the share price a bit higher. They're just going to have to get used to companies like us having 300-400 million shares outstanding, unless they just want us to stop working.
Well, Tim, we have a lot more questions for you, but I want to end with this one question. A few long-term shareholders want to know your vision for the company. What's your end game? Is it a sale, merger, mine operator? Tell us your vision, Tim.
Well, I'm an explorer, so I guess my biases would lie more towards the first two options you said, a merger or a takeover. I'm not a miner. But not to say that Sokoman couldn't become a mining company. It's just not something I'm geared for. Now, a couple of our staff members, luckily, have been involved in advanced projects, including our exploration manager, Mr. Ryan Newman, who's actually been chief geologist at mine. So, and has done a lot of our modeling lately too. So, I would say the end game is either A, merger, B, a takeover. I'd look at any option that made sense for the benefit of our shareholders. So pretty much that simple.
Perfect. And with that, do you have any closing remarks for our viewers today?
Well, I think, it's been a tough year. It's been a tough year and a half, I guess. Our stock has fallen off like a lot of others and hasn't recovered with the price of gold. But, I think there's a lot of great stories. I think the best is still yet to come for Sokoman in terms of potential at Moosehead, and obviously the first round of drilling at Flur de Lee, and of course the spin out of Vinland, from our Golden Hope project now to Killick. That's going to have legs. That's going to have a life, and we don't know how big that could be, but you hang on to us, you hang on to Vinland, I guess, in a way. So, I think we've got a lot to offer still, and the best, I do believe, is yet to come for Sokoman. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us on the conference, and we look forward to following you along in the future with some updates.
Thank you, Anna.
All right, everyone, stay with us. We'll be right back.